I am very happy to see you all on this good occasions. So today I am going to deliver my knowledge sharing session on instructional design and delivery system, which is a basic pedagogy. So we need to teach. We are in a teaching field, so we need how to maintain the students and classroom activities and how to make the students to be understand what we teach. So just I have attended a FTP on IDDS, instructional design and delivery system of basic pedagogy, that is how to train the students in a classroom to make them be attentive inside the classroom. So here, what is the learning objectives? What is teaching? What is the purpose of teaching? What are the types of teaching? Various teaching methods, qualities of good teaching, best to teach, how to assess your teaching. All these are the learning objectives what we are going to discuss. So performance objective is what one can perform better in communicating a message to any audience in future. He can use any one of the methods as such or with modifications in future. So what we all do is in teaching field, we communicate our knowledge what we have to the students. In communication, better communication of message in any audience in future, we can use any different methods. So what all the skills we have, we can use our skills to deliver the lecture to the students, so that the students is not bored. They need to improve their concentration. They need to be attentive inside the classroom. So one can develop automation and external teaching by understanding these concepts and practices. So first of all, what is teaching? Teaching is a process intended for learning by inducing a behavioral change in the thought. So teaching is a process intended for learning or by inducing a behavioral change in the thought. Teaching is one of the art of communicating a message with impact on audience. Now when I do teaching, I create some interest in the students or in the audience so that they are being attracted. Pedagogy is an art of profession of teaching. So pedagogy is the art or profession of teaching. So teaching is a best practices, has to be improved so that you can make the students to be attentive. So that is what the second purpose of teaching is. What? Why you need to go for teaching? So teaching creates knowledge, awareness and feelings in the thought and brings about behavioral change. When you have a good teacher, when you are a good teacher, you make the students to follow you or to follow the principles which you teach. So teaching is what? It creates the knowledge awareness. So it makes the student to serve for attaining the knowledge and feelings in the thought and brings about behavioral change. When they are influenced by the teaching, they automatically start changing their behaviors. They make the students to make them more attentive. So that is what teaching. The process of teaching, when you go for third point, this is the process of teaching. So teacher has some message which is delivered to the students. As a teacher, he has some knowledge or some informations which has to be delivered to the students so that the students make use of these knowledges for their future development. So what a teacher has to be is, he has to be well prepared. There must not be any communicating barriers with the teachers so that all the contents are being delivered to the student so that they accept it and they go for following it. Learning cycle, there are three different domains. We call it as cognitive domain, psychomotor domain and affective domain. So learning cycle is what? All these cognitive domain is based on the knowing or knowledge oriented, whereas psychomotor domain is based on the attitude behavior and the affective domain is based on the practice oriented. So first, cognitive is what? You know, get some knowledge, you understand some knowledge, you have attained some knowledge or you have gathered some knowledge And when the psychomotor domain is what you do, attitude, what is your behaviors on that, how you are, how you do, how you think, that is what psychomotoric domain defines. And affective domain is what you practice, you follow, what you are following. Both cognitive domain and psychomotoric domain can be attained by teaching, and affective domain is based on the interest of the students, what students understand and what they start following. You call it as learning cycle or affective domain. So cognitive domain, psychomotoric domain and affective domain, these are the three different domains where you have knowledge oriented, attitude oriented and practice oriented. Both knowledge and attitude can be taught, whereas practice has to be followed. It is on his own self-interest. Then teacher learns while teaching. As a teacher, he learns more than what he knows, because when he delivers some knowledge, the reaction of the students or the doubt questions from the students makes the teacher more to have a knowledge on the domain. So teaching equipments is cognitive domain with knowledge and psychomotor domain with feelings and interests. So when teaching, you can use the cognitive domain as well as psychomotoric domain. You can teach with the knowledge as well as with the doing. That is what you call it as doing and teaching. Teaching with doing, feelings and interest. Both these domains affect the affective domain to do or practice. Now what you do is, you do some activities. With that activities you deliver the knowledge. When the students is able to understand the activity along with the knowledge, then he starts to do or he starts to practice that. Then that is what you call it as affective domain. If this practicing of teaching is done on regular basis with positive feeling, linking for the subject which are internally absorbed and retained, then we call it as internalization. Internalization is what the students are absorbed and they are keen for understanding the concept, what they are keen in learning the knowledge. Internalization. Atomization is what, whatever it is needed, the cognitive domain provides or recalls the stored facts and concepts automatically. Now he has understand something in his mind, and when he starts to practice that, then we call it as atomization. Then one can profess about the subjects. When these are being done, then automatically the students are keen to listen our lecturers or whatever we deliver, our knowledge, whatever it is. Now you can see there is a question, who is the professor? Once the affective domain is enriched with knowledge and positive attitude internalization of the subject, then you can become a professor. You need to deliver the knowledge and attitude delivered by you is being understood by the student, then you call it as a professor. Internalization is what? Which is dealing with knowledge and positive attitude. When internalization is done, it will lead to the development of atomization. When internalization is being, you are practicing with doing and feeling, whatever it is. Doing with the teaching, feeling with the teaching, you relate feeling and teaching, and knowledge with feelings, knowledge with attitudes. What happens is, it registers in the mind of the students, so that the student starts to practice it. So that you call it as a atomization. Automation. When this happens, then the student has attained some knowledge and he is ready to practice his knowledge. Then you become a good professor. Then you can say that as I am a professor in this field. When you go for types of teaching, so types of teaching is oriented with active teaching, passive teaching, learner oriented, teacher oriented. So both when the students and the teachers are both active, then we call it as active pair. Passive is what we call it as one-way teaching. We teach it, that's all, it reaches to the students. And learners oriented is what the students oriented, and when it is based on the delivered lecturer, then we call it as teacher oriented. So methods of teaching. So teaching methods you can do in by using lecture or lecture with a discussion, or you may go for seminar, you have a symposium, you have a panel discussion with teaching methods, group discussion teaching methods, tutorials, you may have a role play, that is activity based, is what you call it as role play, integrated teaching, talking point sessions. So you may have some points and each one may say some points so that the others may recall that points. You may teach by means of workshops, you may teach by means of conferences. So these are the different delivery methods or teaching methods. What is the qualities of good teaching? When you go in terms of good teaching, you must have good concepts. Good concept may be attained by thorough teaching. When teaching is completely thorough, your preparing is thorough, exactly up to the mark, then you call it as good concepts for inter-teaching. Organized content. So you must not be, content should not be very elaborate. It must not make the students to be very boring. So less content, organized content, crisp and grasp and crisp. So good quality and optimum quantity. Similarly, sequence, there must be a sequence between the topics which you teach, and relevant, the topic must be very relevant to the object, or what is the topic which has to be, what you speak has to be relevant to the topic you are ready to teach. And similarly, it has to be a learner oriented. It must create an interest in the learners. So managing the students. So this is about teaching. In managing the teaching, managing the students is a very big problem nowadays the teachers faces. As the two students are being mischievous, or they may not have interest in understanding, or they may not have interest in learning the contents. So like this, there are how to manage these students. So we must not blame the students for the failure or the impact of our lecture. When the students are not able to recall, or they are not able to understand the concept, or they are not able to explain, we must not just throw the blame. We must not blame the students that you are not fit for anything, you are not doing this, you are not doing so and so, you are not eligible. Like that, we should not throw the blame to the students. And many students are immature, less skilled, emotional, and we are matured, and we are skilled, and we are composed. So the way in which we treat the students has to be very slow, so that we must not be harsh on the students, because their level of understanding, their level of skillness, their emotional level, everything is what not up to the mark of us. So we have to control ourselves before controlling the students. So when we give good topics, when we attract the students, when we make the students to be more attractive to us, then the student starts listening to us. So this can be controlled by having a good lecturers, good topics, well prepared contents. When it is there, then definitely we can manage the students. And thank you for this session, what I have observed and what I have learned through this FDP. Thank you one and all.